Chapter 59. Today, the school in the small town of Derry welcomed a new student. After the tall and thin girl entered the classroom, she went straight to the seat next to the window in the last row. She didn't even open her textbook, but just bowed her head and played with her phone under the table. No teacher came to remind her. It seemed like they all unanimously ignored this student. Siddle didn't pay attention to the curious looks of the people around her. In small-town schools like this, anyone with a little connection or money could attend, even if she had graduated from high school. She clicked on an entertainment program about smart dolls that was on. Two huge and extremely ugly dolls were talking to each other. "Hello, tell me your name." "My name is Cress, and I will be your best friend." "Everyone needs a good friend, our doll will be your most devoted friend, don't hesitate, buy one for yourself." The host, pretending to be a doll, turned around, her plastic face with a head as messy as hay facing the camera, showing a stiff smile. "It will be your family forever." Siddle. After the class ended, she took off her Bluetooth headset. The golden sunlight shone through the window, shining on the girl's beautiful side face. Before walking out of the classroom door, Siddle saw at the turn of the hallway a girl's face flash by, seemingly following her. She frowned, her expression calm, as if she didn't care. A girl with long curly brown hair let loose walked aggressively through the hallway, to the bathroom, and kicked open the door of a bathroom stall. The girl sneered and gritted her teeth, saying, "Beverly, I know you're in there, do you think you can escape if you don't make a sound? Even the smell of urine and feces can't cover up the stench on you. Let me guess which man's bed you were in last night. You're so despicable and vile." Beside her were two other girls. One was a Latina girl wearing a midriff-bearing top who took out a large black trash bag from the trash can, stepped on the toilet, and dumped all the trash into a bathroom stall. The foul-smelling and sour liquid mixture of the trash was dumped into the bathroom stall. The brown-haired girl in the bathroom stall quickly lifted her bag to cover it. The trash slid from her bag and fell. Fortunately, only a little bit of the liquid was on her body. Beverly sighed helplessly, put her bag away, waited until the people blocking the bathroom door left, then slowly stood up, opened the door, and walked out. She carried her school bag to the sink, trying to wash off the dirt on her body and school bag. Clank. A bathroom stall opened, and someone walked out from inside and stood next to her. "Open the tap." "Wipe it." A white hand from the side handed her a stack of papers. Beverly was stunned. She looked up and saw a tall, thin blonde girl standing next to her, her blue eyes looking at her. Beverly took the papers. The 13 or 14-year-old girl smiled cleverly, gratefully said, "Thank you." "Yes." The blonde girl replied softly. In the hallway, a pockmarked girl ran over panting, grabbed the girl who had kicked the door open and cursed, and hurriedly said, "The girl Henry was talking about is in the bathroom on the 3rd floor. I just saw her go in there." Greta was stunned. The Latin girl next to her, Julie, also blinked repeatedly. The two looked at each other and suddenly reacted. Julie smiled, "So she was in there just now." The girl smiled unkindly and said, "I remember there was a trash can in the bathroom. Let's push her head in this time, shall we?" The girls returned to the bathroom aggressively. Beverly had finished cleaning herself and left, leaving only the girls standing at the sink in the bathroom. "Hey!" Julie shouted, seeing the tall and thin girl turn around, her emotionless blue eyes looking her up and down. "Is it you guys?" she said leisurely. "What do you mean by that look?" Greta walked over in dissatisfaction, sneering, "If you can't look at others properly, then don't look at them or I'll gouge your eyes out." When the last girl entered, the beautiful blonde girl gently said to her, "Close the door, thank you." Julie and Greta were stunned. They had bullied others for so many years, but had never seen anyone so calm. Was this giving up resistance? Finally, the girl was startled, remembering her previous procedure for blocking and hitting others, and subconsciously closed the door. Half an hour later, Siddle knelt down in front of a drenched little girl who was huddled in the corner of the bathroom, holding her head in her hands and crying bitterly. She pinched the little girl's cheeks and pulled her head up. Seeing her slightly red and swollen eyes, she took a tissue to wipe her tears, raised her phone again, pointed the camera at her, and calmly said, "Continue." Julie choked, as if choking on her own saliva and unable to speak. She looked in horror at the blonde girl who was obviously very thin but strong as a demon in front of her, and sure enough, she saw that the girl's expression was getting colder and colder. Siddle turned to look at the two who were shivering and huddled to the side. She casually pulled one of them away, and said, "How many times were you planning to slap me?" "Greta, about 10, a dozen." Julie looked at Siddle worriedly, and saw her continue to pull the other person over. "You can start now." "Hurry up," she said calmly, her eyes cold. "Slap each other until your good sister can talk." "Why hasn't it started yet?" The girl tilted her head in confusion, her gaze as sharp as a knife. "If I were to do it, it wouldn't be as simple as slapping you in the face." Greta looked at Julie in panic and asked for help. Julie gritted her teeth and pulled the corner of Siddle's shirt, sobbing, "Wait, I can continue." Siddle knelt down in front of her, raised the camera. Julie held back her tears, and stammered, "A lot of the things I did were ordered by Henry and his gang. You guys, Henry, Hawks, Richie, Belch. Henry is the big brother at school, his father is the chief of police at the police station in Derry Town. She often caused trouble in school, often leading a group of boys to fight and bully her classmates, and even using her father's reputation in Derry Town to rape others for money. This time I went to bully the new classmate Siddle because Henry asked me to teach her a lesson, but while bullying Siddle, her eyes were red, her hair was messy, and there were obvious water marks on her face. Siddle moved the camera aside, pressed pause, reached out to stroke her wrinkled collar, and corrected herself. "You have to say. You were moved by Siddle's patience, gentleness, and kindness, and suddenly realized your previous mistakes and absurdities, so you confessed to all your crimes and accomplices, understand? Siddle, because you said the wrong thing, causing me more trouble, you have to feel guilty about this, little girl." "Julie." The little girl hesitated, not daring to speak. In the end, she had no choice but to quietly adjust her mentality and say it again, but she was moved by Siddle's patience, gentleness, and kindness. When Siddle left the restroom, there was another video on her phone. As evidence to accuse Henry and his accomplices, Julie even confessed that there was a case of gathering to fight and the victim was disabled, but everything was covered up. Henry's father had no idea about his son's bad temper, but perhaps he didn't expect the matter to be so serious. Then, the situation developed into Siddle and a black girl squatting in the bathroom, with an expressionless face, listening to the girl crying about her tragic experiences due to racism. After that, Siddle invited those bullies out and beat them up in front of the black girl, conveniently taking some money from their wallet to buy a big bag of candy and letting the black girl feed them one by one. If they couldn't eat it, they had to eat it. If they threw up, they still had to eat it. If they didn't eat candy, they had to eat bricks. That night, Siddle patiently squatted at the end of the alley holding bricks, sitting there until midnight. In the end, facing the black girl's tears and thanks, Siddle coldly rejected her gratitude, and expressed that if she was bullied again in the future, she could prioritize thinking about finding her to solve it, instead of summoning some nonsense legendary creature. From then on, Siddle continued to experience similar incidents, and finally she couldn't stand it anymore. She decided that she had to be at the top of the school's food chain, but only to solve the problem of school violence. So whoever dared to bully others, the first thing they would get was not the respect of their friends, but a brick from Siddle. Siddle put her cell phone in her pocket and calmly left. After leaving the restroom, she conveniently used an anonymous account to send the edited video to the public mailbox of the police station where Henry's father worked. Back in the classroom, Siddle saw an umbrella placed by her seat. It was the umbrella she had given to someone yesterday, but the skinny teenager still insisted on returning it. "Hello," the girl sitting in the front seat curiously poked her head over. "Do you know those boys? Those Bills from the incompetent group, he just came to see you." Siddle hung the umbrella handle beside the table. Is incompetent a nickname someone else gave him? The girl nodded, thought for a moment, then shook her head. Although Henry and his group called them the incompetents at first, they are indeed a group of eccentrics. As the sun set, the crowd rushed out. In front of the school gate, several tall boys surrounded a short and chubby boy. Henry chuckled, and several people held the chubby boy and dragged him to the side of a remote national highway. "Hey, look at your fat body, newbie." The short fat boy struggled in fear, but it was obvious that he could not resist the strength of the upperclassmen. One of them took off the boy's clothes. Belch playfully patted his round white belly, while Henry was lighting a lighter beside him. He chuckled and brought the flame in front of the boy's face. "Do you want a new hairstyle?" Hawks and Belch held the fat boy's body tightly. Despite the boy struggling in fear and despair, he did not budge. When Henry pressed closer, preparing to make his next move, he suddenly became alert because he heard the sound of a car passing by. The short fat boy shouted loudly, "Save me, please, save me." The boy's voice gradually faded. The driver indifferently walked away. "Listen, newbie," Henry smiled smugly again, pulling out a sharp dagger from his body. "What's your name? I'll help you engrave your name." The cold, sharp knife began to move on the boy's stomach, the cut flesh and blood exposed in the air. Henry was carving words on the boy's body, his eyes shining with excitement, until he heard Belch's horrified voice. Belch stared blankly at the slender girl in a loose black hoodie on the sidewalk of the remote highway, her hands in her pockets, the hood pulled up to cover her blonde hair, her head slightly bowed, her steps languidly walking towards them. He moved his lips, remembering that Siddle would report to her mother, and his fierce appearance at the moment. He unconsciously let go. The fat boy took the opportunity to turn around and kick Henry in the chest, turning and running down the hillside. Henry was kicked back. He was so angry that he didn't care about the girl walking towards him. He pushed his companions away, cursed angrily, grabbed the dagger and jumped over the railing to chase after him. Belch ran after him in panic. Henry's angry roar echoed in the mountains and forests. "Wait until I catch up with him, I will definitely cut off his fat chest." However, after the few people ran and rolled down the hillside, the short and chubby boy had already run far away, and Henry discovered that the dagger in his hand had fallen somewhere when he fell into the valley. He got up angrily and fearfully. The two boys were still chasing after him, and only Belch was beside Henry. He angrily pushed Belch. "Hurry up and find the dagger with me. If Dad doesn't find it, he'll kill me." Belch groped around, but while he was groping on the muddy ground covered with dry leaves, he felt something staring at him from behind. Belch slowly stood up, turned his head, and saw Siddle, his nominal sister, sitting perched on the white-painted railing by the side of the road, her long slender legs swinging at the junction between the ground and the railing, silently looking down at him. Her snow-white face was expressionless, only her sharp eyes were surprisingly bright. But those eyes combined with her snow-white face always gave Belch a creepy feeling. As if sitting there was not a person. He swallowed, stopping his search for the knife.